Hi guys, I'm Chiu Yen I and welcome to my Multiple Careers podcast. Honestly guys, I have no idea what I'm doing. I just knew that I needed to start this podcast as soon as possible and that I shouldn't delay it any longer. Most of you guys watching right now are likely to come from my other main channel, which is Multiple Careers. And in that case, first of all, I do want to thank you so much for trusting me and giving it a try and clicking on this video/podcast. I'm very excited to have you here because this is what I would say the beginning of a new chapter for me as well as Multiple Careers. And in case you're curious to know why I started this podcast, what my thinking behind that was, then you might want to take a look at the video that I posted on my main channel, Multiple Careers. It should be out in a few hours. I've not done it yet because I've decided to make this podcast first and then do my little kind of announcement on my main channel, but that is something that you'll see in a bit. So there I will also explain a bit about why I thought about starting this podcast, but since you're here, I might as well do that here as well. So yeah, for those of you guys that have followed me for a while, I've been running my main channel for quite a while now. I would say around 2.5 years, maybe 2 years, 1.5 years intensively, and I've made close to 250 videos over there. But somehow I figured that I was sort of encountering like a block, like there was something that made it difficult for me to progress and grow further. And yesterday I was taking quite a while to find out, like, what was it? Like, what was the reason that I kind of felt stuck? And you might know that feeling of being stuck, right? I mean, it sucks. You want to make progress, you want to go forward, but there's something that is just limiting you, that is in your way, and oftentimes it's something that's related to yourself. It's oftentimes not an external limitation, but something that's happening within you. So I took a look at that and I've identified that I've been pretty much doing a lot of different things on my main channel. I've been making videos that are more produced, more scripted, and very highly edited and polished. At least that is what I think about those videos. I don't know what you guys think, but yeah, you might be able to recognize those kinds of videos. And you might have also seen that I've not been as consistent in the type of videos that I've been producing. So there are videos that are more scripted, have higher production quality, and on the other hand, there are videos where actually I'm just talking like this. But basically, what all of those videos on my main channel have in common is that they are mostly scripted. They are very heavily scripted. So what I do is that in advance, I really write out everything that I want to say. I write at least an outline, a very detailed outline, or oftentimes a full script, like down to each and every single word that I will say, because I want to stay on topic and not ramble and go off track like I'm doing right now. But anyway, so yeah, I realized that I've been producing very different kinds of videos on that channel, and I thought that it wouldn't provide an optimal experience to my audience, because some people who come there are actually looking for edutainment. So they are looking for a solution for their, let's say, career problem. For example, how do I choose between career A and career B, etc. But at the same time, they're also really looking for some form of entertainment. Yeah, and I hope that I was able to do that to some extent. But my challenge there was that if I only made those types of videos, which by the way I really enjoy, I really love the process of producing more scripted and entertaining videos with a lot of b-roll, images, graphics, graphs, and so on. But on the other hand, I also enjoy making these kinds of videos, or rather podcasts that I'm doing right now, where I'm totally unscripted right now. I mean, all I have right now to aid me through this process is one page of random bullet points that once in a while I'll refer to, I'll look at, I'll peek at to remind me of what I was going to talk about. But apart from that, I am not scripted at all right now, and I'm just talking from my heart, and it's a much more authentic process, if you will. And I really enjoy that process of exploring my thoughts in real time. And the difference is really, right now, it's as though I'm talking to you directly. It's as though I'm talking to a friend, in real time, unprepared, and whatever comes to mind, I just say. So anyway, talking about rambling and going off topic, what is today's first podcast episode, Multiple Careers podcast episode, gonna be about? Today I want to talk about embracing a messy career, finding some kind of order in that, and in the process reinventing your career. And it has a lot to do with new beginnings, which I'm going through right now as well with this new podcast, New Beginnings, starting a new chapter, daring to do something new. So and I will be talking about an analogy that I find really interesting and suitable, which is chaos and order. In case you are someone who knows Jordan B. Peterson, or you've followed him for a while, if that's the case, then you might be very familiar with this term, chaos and order, that people going through their lives, they are mostly in a state of having one foot in chaos and one foot in order. So I am going to kind of borrow this analogy from him, but I'm going to take the liberty to kind of reinterpret it myself for the purpose of today's podcast. So I find this analogy very suitable for careers, because mostly we have one foot in order, which is in our current career. But on the other hand, like, many of us have these goals or this vision for our perfect career, and in the process of getting there, usually we enter a state that is a bit chaotic and a bit messy. And in that state, there are a lot of things that do not go the way that we want them to go. There's a lot of fear. There are a lot of obstacles. There are a lot of challenges that we face, mostly within ourselves. I mean, most of the challenges related to our career do not originate from the external world, although they do in part, but most of those challenges lie within ourselves. So I want to talk a bit about how to move forward from that. If right now you feel that you are in a state of order, but you have this goal, then you have to know that you will need to eventually go through some chaos in order to make progress and get to somewhere else. If you do not allow yourself to go through this process of messiness in your career, a bit of chaos in your career, then it is very difficult to get to a new place, to make some real and significant change to your career. So let's maybe start by talking about my own career. Maybe that's something that might interest you. And later on, if you have more questions about me and my career, you can also let me know your comments, drop them down below. And by the way, that would also enormously help me with my new podcast, my new YouTube podcast channel here, because it would help give the algorithm a nudge and push this out to more people. So let's talk a bit about my career. I've done this a bit on my main channel. I mean, I've realized that I've peppered stories about my own career changes, multiple careers that I've been going through on my main channel, but there was never like one episode where I really went into more depth, because actually I am not really the type of person who likes talking about herself, and that has been one of the challenges that I've been facing so far with running my channel. Like maybe you have noticed, you guys, that I've been pretty much private about myself, and I'm also an introvert. Not that introversion equals being a private person, but okay. I think let's not get into this right now. So let's just get back to my career. So I do want to open up a bit more about that, because I think that maybe some things could help you in your own process of building your career. So I started off my first real career working in banking. I was a project manager, and I worked in strategic business management. I dealt a lot with implementing new projects, initiatives, like, for example, launching new service standards in retail banking, launching a new credit card. And I was basically really much living in the corporate world. I was doing all those meetings with 20 people, with senior management, running like 5 conference calls with people all across the country. That was, by the way, back in Indonesia and in Singapore. And yeah, I was really living the corporate life, the corporate job. And for a while, in the very beginning, I would say that there was a time where I enjoyed it. I mean, come on, after all, it's your first job. You get to wear these fancy clothes, high heels, this lanyard, walk into this awesome modern building in the capital of the city, and you just feel like you're on top of the world. And then you get your first salary, and you get your bonus, and you get acknowledgments about your work and what you've achieved left and right. And yeah, I mean, there was a time where I was like showered with praise on what I achieved in my job. But then after, I would say 2 years or so, I realized that no, this is not for me. I mean, how in the world could I have ever thought that this working in banking in a corporation could be something that's suitable for me? The reason why I was working there was just because I thought that it was a natural consequence after, because before that I studied banking, finance, international management, and so on and so on, and I got a master's in business administration. From there, at that time, it felt like, okay, the next most natural step would be to work in finance, in banking. And I guess that at that time, considering that I didn't know yet what I really wanted to do or how I would go about what I wanted to do at that time, it made sense to do it for a while. One of my mistakes, I would say, or my little regrets, would be that I just hanged in there for a bit too long. So instead of, after 2 years of experiencing some kind of burnout, saying that, okay, let's just call it quits, I had a good time, now bye-bye banking, let's move on to something else, I just hanged in there for too long. So what happened is that I started working in banking in Indonesia, in Southeast Asia, for 2 years, and then I got promoted, and I got sent to the bank's branch in Singapore, and I worked in Singapore. Sorry, just a small correction. I worked in Indonesia for 3 years in banking, and then I went to Singapore and went on and worked there for 2 years. And then during that time, it became much more challenging because I got promoted, my job scope got larger, etc. I had more responsibilities. It got more stressful, and I went further and further into burnout. And that is also, luckily in a way, I say that I rediscovered what I actually wanted to do, which was acting. So at that time, not filmmaking yet, but I knew that I've always had this dream of acting since I was a kid. And also when I was in high school, I spent part of my childhood and early teens in Germany, by the way, a long time. And that is also where when I started doing theater. And during this phase of burnout, I finally had the time to really rethink my priorities and think about what is it actually that I want to do with my life and my career. And I sort of rediscovered my passion for acting. I took an evening class in acting, and that went on for about 2 months. And from there, one thing led to another. I got to know a lot of young independent film producers and film directors who tried to get me on board and work in their short film, and I happily did, even without any pay. I just enjoyed it so much. So I did about almost, I would say, 10 of those 10 short films. and that was also what gave me the courage to quit my job in the end, because had I not done these series of experiments trying to do these short film projects, even if I didn't get paid for them and I didn't see anything big coming out of it, but because I did this little experiment and I actually did it, I actually applied acting skills, I actually lived a life as an actor for a while, that actually gave me the insight and the courage to say to myself, hey, there could be something else for you, that it might not have to be this banking career. This is maybe not what you should pursue. Maybe there's a totally different kind of life and career that you could have that would make you much more fulfilled, that you should go ahead and explore. And that's what I did. So I quit my job, and I was in Singapore at that time, and I went back to Indonesia, where my parents were also still living. And there I started my journey of multiple careers, I would say. I started my journey of trying to do many things at once, and I would say I did too many things at once. But okay, I do not want to get into the details of that today because that would take too much time. But basically, I would say that that would be a time where I entered some form of chaos, if you will. So before that, when I was still in banking, I was sort of in the realm of order. Everything was going as per plan, and I was making progress. And in the eyes of society, I was really a successful person, a successful career woman, even, I would say. But once I quit my job and I tried to make it on myself and try to do all these different things, from acting and starting my own business, and so that is where I really entered a realm of chaos. Because there were so many things that I've never done before. I've never sold like any kind of product or service yet myself, and I've never ever earned a paycheck other than a paycheck that I got from my company, from the corporation that I was working at before. So this was the first time where I was really on my own, and I had to think about where would like the money come next to pay the bill for the next month, right? And that was really a crazy journey. I mean, I did so many things. For example, I started a business making homemade yogurt, and I sold that to restaurants and also to customers directly. And I sold home apparel. I imported some like furniture accessories from Singapore to Indonesia and sold it on Facebook. And I got my money back, but I didn't earn much beyond that. Okay, basically from there, I just want to fast forward a bit. I just want to fast forward and not go through the whole story. But if you have any questions, please leave them down for me in the comments. Fast forward, I did a lot of trial and error and a lot of soul searching, experimenting. I got lost many times, and I even experienced some mini burnouts until I had this kind of breakthrough where I got to make my 2 first feature films. And that was really the biggest adventure of my life for me, I would say, because I had no experience whatsoever in filmmaking, in film producing. I had acting experience, but I never ever produced my own film before. So that was really something new, but that was something that was so exciting, and it was so fun. Like when I was working on making that film, or in general, whenever I was working, whenever I had an acting job, I was acting, I felt like I was really alive. I felt like this is the kind of life that is worth living. Doing the things that you love, that are fun, that are fulfilling to you, right? As opposed to working in a bank where, for me personally, I mean, where everything is stable and I get my paycheck, I get my bonuses, I get to buy all these fancy things, but I felt so empty inside. So that was really a revelation for me that, oh wow, there is like this totally different side to this world. If there's this one thing that I was doing at that time, making 2 feature films that fulfilled me so much, like what other things could be out there in the world, or things that I could explore and do that could bring me even more fulfillment. And since then, or around that time, I began to realize that, okay, there's actually not just one single way to have a career. I mean, that is what maybe most people would tell you, especially of the older generation. They would have like one set way of thinking about a career. I mean, most, I'm careful here to say Asian parents, because I know that it's not only Asian parents, but this is definitely true for Asian parents, that they do expect their children to take up a proper, decent job, like becoming a lawyer, a doctor, engineer, or even maybe doing something in real estate or doing real business. But entertainment, working in the entertainment industry, was certainly not something that would fall onto that list. Okay, and let's say that even in the case that parents or society, other people are supportive of someone doing something else other than these more popular or more recommended jobs, like, I mean, even if they were open to you doing something in design and arts and so on, then usually people would recommend something like a single career track, where they would tell you to pick something and then stick to it, which I actually agree with. I mean, if you picked something, you should be sticking with it for a certain time at least, because only if you stick to it for a certain time can you see whether it's for you or not, and then you can make a proper assessment about it. If you just do something like, for example, me doing this podcast right now, and after doing one take, I tell myself, oh no, that was total crap, let's just stop it, like, let's not ever do it again, then I will never give myself the chance to really find out if it's suitable for me or not. Yeah. Okay, let's get back to the point. So my point is that, you do have to stick to doing one thing, but not necessarily for your entire life. And even at one point in time, you do not have to only pursue one thing. I know, I mean, it could be ideal for some people, and maybe that would be the perfect scenario where you put in all your resources, energy, and time into that one single thing. You dedicate all that you've got to that one single thing so that you can get the maximum output. But I've also realized through analyzing myself and looking at some other people's experiences also, that for some people it just doesn't work. And that is the reason why I started this channel, Multiple Careers. It was based on my own belief that there is a different way to have a career, that it is not possible for all people to stick to one single track defined career path throughout their entire life, but that there are certain kinds of people, me included, and very likely you listening or watching right now, who have different kinds of interests that you want to pursue and that you want to have success with, not just as a hobby, not just tinkering, playing around in your free time, but that you want to do professionally as a career. And give me 1 second. Need to take a sip. Yeah, and I had this realization that you actually can pursue different things in your life, and you can do that concurrently, meaning you pursue two different things or two careers, two projects at the same time, although that's very difficult, or you do it consecutively, meaning that you divide your life up in phases. Life is long, by the way, and in each stage or phase of your life, you focus on developing one career. For example, for the first 10 years or 5 years of your life, like I did, you build a career in banking or finance. And then in the next 10 years, because you love, let's say, building and designing houses so much, then you focus on building a career in building tiny houses, small houses on the countryside, or for example, you have this idea that you want to become that you want to go into the Airbnb business, and you do that for 10 years. And by that time, let's say you're 45, there's even time to have another career and another career after that. But I want to emphasize here that it's very important to remember that this is not a competition. This is not another this is not another status or prestige symbol, because that would defeat the purpose of the whole thing. So the purpose of pursuing multiple careers for those people who feel that they have to is to get that sense of freedom, to find that fulfillment in their career, to give themselves, allow themselves to pursue all the things that they are interested in, that they love doing in their life, so that when it comes to the end of their life, once they're 90 or even 100 or 105, and they look back on their life, they do not have any regrets. They don't have regrets like, I always wanted to learn martial arts, or I wanted to become a martial arts instructor even. I really regret that I didn't do it. Why didn't I just do it? Like, what did I have to lose at that time, right? And I think this is one of the thinking behind multiple careers, that you do not want to be having any regrets at the end of your life. And another central assumption that lies behind multiple careers that I often talk about is also that nowadays, if you're a millennial or Gen Z right now, you have a 50% possibility of reaching some age around 100. If you live a rather healthy life, you grow up, you live in a safe environment, then you have a very, very good chance of reaching that age. And if you do reach that age, let's say you do very well financially when you're young. Let's say you work in investment banking or so, and you get to retire at 60 or even 50. Or if you're a software engineer and you achieve financial freedom at 40, maybe you can even retire at 40. But the big question is, what will you do after that, right? You still have a long life to live. And well, some people need to continue working because their life is so long, and their government pension will definitely not allow them to just rely on that. But on the other hand, there are also people who do not have to work, but they just love working, and they would be bored if they wouldn't work at all. And that is where those kinds of people might also consider to start a different career. Anyways, career change can happen for many, many different reasons. I mean, there are people who realized, maybe you are one of them, realized that they started working in a wrong career, or their career is just so it's boring and they want to start something else. But for many people, there's this big block, and there's this big challenge to overcome, to allow yourself to make a change, try different things, experiment, and have the courage. And also, it does take some discipline, I would say. I mean, it's really not easy starting something new. Talking about my main channel, Multiple Careers, I started that around two years ago, and I've consistently uploaded. I mean, I took some breaks in between, obviously, when I was burned out, but overall, I would say that I was rather consistent in uploading, so that I got to 250 videos now. And because I've been doing it for so long, I've realized that, yeah, this is something that's really tough. It's really difficult, and man, you can't believe like how many ups and downs and how much frustration there is with like building your own channel and starting something new and being self-employed. But it's at the same time also so rewarding. And through that journey, I discovered so many things about myself. And one of the biggest things that I've discovered about myself is that content creation, producing content on my own time, with autonomy, like not having someone else tell me what I have to produce, that's so liberating, and that's so fulfilling. And I was so glad to make that discovery, because for my whole life I was always on that quest of finding what it was that I love to do. And I kind of found it by coincidence. Not total coincidence, but I mean that the way that I found my way to this content creation thing was because I just went ahead and I just tried it out. I just took the risk. You know, there are so many people who want to start a new career. They want to start something new. It could just be a project or a small business, or it could even be a hobby. But they overthink things. They think so much and they never get started. Like, I have so many friends who 8 years ago told me, hey, I'm really interested in trying this. I want to be a dog trainer or whatever. But until now, they never tried it because they overthought everything. They thought about the difficulties they would encounter, the challenges, and how long it would take. So this one friend I had, whose name I won't mention, 8 years ago or even more, told me that she wanted to become a dog trainer someday. But she was worried about, like, one of the things she was concerned about was about the time that it would take. Like, it could take me 3 years or 4 years to, like, learn everything and then start that business and so on. And now it's like 8 years. 8 years have passed. So just imagine if she had started at that time. She had just, like, done it. Like, imagine where she would have been right now. And same with my YouTube channel. Imagine if 2 years ago I told myself that, no, it's no use trying. Like, you can't do it. And, like, it's going to be so difficult. And how are you going to start? And what about the equipment and about the script, the speaking, the editing, and so on? I would never have started. And that's the same thing with this podcast, which talking about the theme of this today's topic about messiness and chaos, I feel is a bit of a chaotic podcast, but I was willing to take the risk. Like, when I started pressing record, I hit record. Like, even before that, I knew that, okay, this is going to be experimental. There is going to be some chaos in this podcast because this is the first one. But that's what it takes, guys. I mean, no matter what you want to do, if you want to achieve something new, something significant, you got to get past that. I mean, just imagine Elon Musk. Like, before he had his successful SpaceX launches, and so, I mean, you guys know the story, right? You guys know how many times he failed and his rocket blew up. And it's no different. There's no difference with like us normal people trying to start something new in the process towards achieving something, going somewhere that is meaningful and fulfilling. You will just need to face those fears and those roadblocks. There's just no other way around it. If you want to get from chaos to a state of order again, you just need to go through these stages. If you want to reinvent yourself, if you do not want your career to remain static and boring, and if you do not want to have regrets, then you need to be taking those kinds of risks, like I'm doing right now, right? Yeah. And also remember, this is one really important point, is that in chaos, if you feel like you're in a state of chaos or messiness, that is also where opportunity lies. I don't know if you guys watched Game of Thrones, but if you did, then you might remember Peter Baelish, one character there, saying that chaos is a ladder. So when you're in a situation where things are not going right, where you're frustrated, where you feel down, or even feel that you're at rock bottom, that is actually where the biggest opportunity lies. If you're at rock bottom, there's just no way that you can sink further, right? You're already at the very bottom, and from there it can only go up. So if from there you change your mindset, and instead of sulking, instead of feeling frustrated, you change your mindset and open up your mindset to all the possibilities that exist in the world, all the things that you can do with your career, then really the world is your oyster. I mean, nowadays you really do not have an excuse. I'm sorry to say that so bluntly, but if you do not have a fulfilling career at the end of your life, then you have no one else to blame but yourself. I mean, in the short term, you can always blame external circumstances. In the short term, let's look at 6 months, for example. You can say, okay, my career is not going well because my colleagues suck, my boss suck, or I got laid off, or the economy, or my health, or I don't know, a natural disaster or whatsoever. You can always say those things in the short term, and that is what I call a victim mentality. But I mean, that's life. I mean, sometimes you are a victim. in life. But if you look at a longer time horizon, once you look at the medium and long term, then you don't have that excuse any longer. If we look at 1 year or 2 years, there are so many things that you can change. You can put yourself in a different environment. You can change the circumstances. You can try and adopt different ways and methods to improve your life and your career. There is just no excuse anymore. But the way to do it is that you just need to start with something today. Like on my main channel, Multiple Careers, there are so many people who are asking me about career change, like how you actually change careers, like should you study or whatever, what should you do? And my answer is always that you need to start by experimenting. You need to start making an investment to figure out what you want and how you can do it that is low investment and low risk. So if you want to change careers to something drastically different, it doesn't mean that, okay, I have this hunch that I want to become a psychotherapist, and the next day you go and sign up for a course. I mean, for some people it works that way. Some people just have that certainty and that gut feeling, and sometimes it works. Sometimes you have to follow it, but you can only do it if you already know yourself, if you know from experience that, okay, this is the kind of gut feeling that you need to follow, and this is the kind of gut feeling that will lead me down the wrong path, right? So instead of doing that, like making a huge investment that will cost you time, money, especially money and energy, and maybe even like put you into debt, what you could do instead is you take a short course, or you try and read up more about psychology. One example that I once gave is try and pull up a psychology research paper and try and read that. I mean, many people are very interested in psychology, but when it gets to research papers, to statistics, then all of a sudden they're like, oh no, I don't want to have anything to do with that. But that is a part of psychology as well, right? Statistics, experiments, and so on. So rather than making this one big time decision, start with things that are a small investment, like this podcast, for example. I mean, what could possibly go wrong here? I record this podcast, this video podcast, and maybe it sucks. Maybe no one wants to watch it. But then, okay, what do I have to lose? I mean, at least I've tried it. I put myself out there, and if it doesn't work, I can either stop it, or the next time I just do things differently and I try to improve if I really love doing it. So there's either way, I would say there's almost no risk. The risk is much larger if I had decided not to do it. If I told myself, okay, this is not gonna work, just don't do it. But then I'll still have it like in the back of my head for years and years to come. And someday it will come back and bite me. Like 5 years or 10 years from now, I will think, didn't once I had this idea of starting a podcast, but why in the world did I not do it? Like what held me back, right? Yeah, so that is the beginning of our discussion of how you can reinvent your career. And if that's something that's interesting to you, then you might want to subscribe to this channel, and also don't forget to hit the notification bell, because the way that YouTube works is you will only get notified of those videos, of my videos, if you hit that notification bell and set it to all notifications. Because if you don't do that, then it's likely that YouTube will not notify you, and then you'll never hear of me again, unless if you proactively go to my channel and search out and then see if I have posted any more comments. So before we close this podcast and wrap it up, I just want to let you know what you can expect here on this Multiple Careers podcast. So as on my main channel, I will be talking about how you can build and grow and develop and nourish a fulfilling career. And a fulfilling career oftentimes means managing, developing multiple careers. Like I said before, either concurrently at the same time or consecutively, one after the other. So if you are one of those people, if you are one of those who want to have a fulfilling career, if having a fulfilling and meaningful career especially is something that's really important to you, then I would really recommend you to keep following this channel, because I will be talking about methods, about tips and tools that you can use to develop that kind of career, but especially mindset, how you can have the right mindset to change careers, start something new, reinvent yourself. And I think one of the most important things that this podcast might be able to do for you is also to help you to build up your courage. I mean, in the end, the courage comes from within you, but sometimes it can help if you are part of a community, of this multiple careers community here, who all have the same goal. They all want to work on their career so that they can have a more fulfilling and a more meaningful career. And sometimes the only thing that is holding us back is this fear of trying and starting something new. But once you realize that this fear is something that is common, that is natural, that all other people, including myself, have, then it becomes less intimidating. Everything becomes easier. And also one thing that I will try to do in the future that I think will be a lot of fun is that I will try to get some guests on this podcast. So I will be doing some solo podcasts like these going forward, but I will try to hopefully sooner than later get on some people who had multiple careers, or who have multiple careers, or who have gone through a major career change and can share a bit about their journey, their process, and what they've done to face their fears, how they overcame their challenges, and so on. Yeah. So the last thing is, in case you are curious to find out more about what this channel will be about, what I'll be talking about, and also if you have questions for me, personal questions, leave them down in the comments below. You're free to leave any kinds of questions. Almost nothing, I would say, is off limits, but of course I will decide whether or not I will answer your questions. But that is also one thing that I'll do on this channel. Once in a while, perhaps I'll have a Q&A session. I'll look at all your comments, questions, suggestions, and then I will bundle them up in one session and I'll respond to them. And perhaps you can even expect a live session from me. But yeah, let's see about that. Let's see how this one goes. And don't forget, if you want to support me, if you want to support this channel, hit the like button. That would also let me know that you enjoyed this and that you want to hear more from me here on this Multiple Careers podcast. I thank you so much for joining. It was awesome to have you here. I'm very excited about the coming weeks and what will happen on this new channel. I don't know myself yet. So until then, I wish you a great day. All the best for your career, and I'll see you again next time.